Hey, thanks everyone for joining this morning. Really excited to kick things off for you here on this stage. My name's Jason Moore. I lead enterprise transformation at Zip. That's a fancy way of saying that I work with our prospective customers to educate them in all things Zip and intake and orchestration. Still a relatively new category. A lot of folks still have questions in terms of what it is and the benefits that it provides. So myself and my team are here to help provide clarity around the questions that you have. I'm a former procurement practitioner. I've been at Zip for 2 years now, but for the 5 years prior, I led procurement operations at Discover Financial Services up the road in Riverwoods and led their procurement transformation there. Part of that transformation was implementing Zip enterprise-wide. So done about everything you can from a practitioner perspective with Zip. So yeah, really excited to talk to you about the evolution of procurement through AI. Okay, so let's set some context here. So we think procurement's at an inflection point, and you probably feel that way in the internal conversations that you're having at your organizations. When you come to events like this, obviously AI is top of mind. I don't know what the over-under is on the number of times AI will be said at this conference, but you will probably be tired, if not already, about hearing about AI. But we think it's at an inflection point because of three converging trends. Those trends are more systems. Every company I talk to has, kind of your traditional source to pay suite, but they have a lot of systems on top of that, systems for contracting or risk, et cetera. There's more process complexity, right? Particularly for those of you that work in highly regulated environments, you have more requirements that need to be met, more teams that need to be involved in the review. And that's created a lot of complexity. And then of course, the rise of AI. How many of you, by show of hands, are using AI in your procurement functions today? Okay, great. So a lot more hands that went up today than maybe what happened at the conference last year or obviously the year before. So look, what we see in our own research, we did this state of spend report where we interviewed 1,000 different procurement leaders. There's an overwhelming sense of optimism in the use of AI in their organizations. So 80% of procurement and finance leaders believe they will successfully deploy AI in their environments this year. And we asked some of those procurement leaders for their predictions. And the predictions kind of had a common theme, which is, how do we move away from the tactical work that's defined our organizations and functions for a long time and move into more of that strategic level work? So Ignacio Cabrera, he's the current CPO at Cloudflare. He believes that every procurement leader is going to command an AI digital worker. My colleague, Danielle McQuiston, who used to run North American procurement for Sanofi, believes that we'll all become AI augmented strategists. And then James Belshaw, he's the procurement performance lead for Primark. It's a large retailer. There's a store on State Street. He believes that we'll turn into more of a human-centric operating model so that we offload a lot of the transactional administrative work that we're doing today and create more opportunities to be more strategic thought partners with our business partners. But globally, there's a gap between that 80% optimism and people's readiness. In that same survey, what we found is the majority of people feel like they're only somewhat prepared for AI, so 58%. And if you see, only 26% feel like they're very prepared. And there's no better time to kind of embrace AI and become prepared for it than now. So this is actually a research report that Hackett does every year. You'll hear from Chris Sawchuk after this. And they take a look at investment in procurement staff and procurement operating budget. And for the first time in 10 years, they're actually seeing a decrease in the level of investment in those areas. At the same time, and I'm sure a lot of you are feeling this, your total workload and volume is going up by 8%. So how are you actually going to be able to solve for that? So what we see is at the same time, those budget and the budget allocation is shifting to technology. So there's this embrace of technology and AI in order to meet that increasing workload. So you can see procurement technology spend is actually increasing 6%. So there's this kind of evolving interest and understanding of the ability for AI and technology to actually solve for and create scale within your own organizations. And we actually see this within our own product. So by 2030, if we look at our own Zip product usage in the trajectory that we are on as a company, we expect to handle over 1 billion reviews submitted each year. And it's our belief that almost 90% of those can be solved and automated or at least augmented through the use of AI. And we think this will help you solve for what's top of mind for you today. So when we talk to procurement leaders in that same state of spend report that I referenced earlier, you're focused on kind of three main things. You want processes that are more business friendly. We hear this concept of reducing or removing friction in the procurement process. We need processes that are more connected across functions. We talked about that evolving complexity. You got a lot of different teams, a lot of different systems. How do you actually connect those to create more of a seamless experience, but also help you achieve your objectives through better data? And then lastly, you want processes that are more automated by AI. And you see solving this challenge, this process challenge, as a way to become more of a strategic enabler for your organization. So in that survey, what's the greatest hindrance to your ability to become that strategic partner? It's actually the ability to solve for the process challenges they have today. So 30% of the procurement leaders think that's the gateway, or those are the table stakes expectations that need to be made in order to start having that proverbial seat at the table that we love to talk about. This is a colleague of mine. His name's Jim Charnecki. He used to be the CPO at MGM Resorts. I love his framing of this, which is something that I think we're all going to need to start shifting how we think about the use of AI, which is not taking a look at your process today and figuring out where you can actually insert AI into your process to drive more of that automation. It's how would you actually design your process using AI if AI could execute more of that work? And that might be a fundamental shift in the way in which we're thinking about redesigning and re-engineering our processes. So these are the things that we work through at Zip. And our belief is that the only thing that's going to enable that true operational shift is an AI procurement orchestration platform, because it gives you the flexibility to be able to design and configure a process that meets the needs of your organizations and your stakeholders. Let's talk about AI for a minute. Obviously top of mind for everybody. What's different between the AI that you're using in Claude or ChatGPT within your own environments versus what might be in an orchestration solution like Zip? Well, we see Zip AI agents, they have a couple things that really are working in their favor. They have the context of your organization, your process, and the ability to access multiple data sources across your various systems. It also creates the framework and the infrastructure and the control and the auditability to be able to implement AI in a way that actually seamlessly works within your organization. And so if you go through an audit or a regulatory exam, great, you have the evidence of what decisions were made and what the AI actually created as a means with which to advance the request. And the last key thing is you move beyond just insights and the ability to expose data, but actually take that a step further and actually automate more of that work. I have a lot of conversations at conferences like this, and there's a bit of a reluctance or skepticism in terms of AI's ability to automate more of the work right now. And we do see an evolution in people's adoption of AI, even within our own product. So the ability to augment more of the work that's happening and over time automate more of those activities. So here's just a couple examples of current customers who are using our AI agents within the platform. OpenAI is actually a customer of ours. They use Zip's full intake to pay capabilities. They're also a design partner in how we develop our own AI agents. Anthropic is also a customer and a design partner. They use our intake validation agent to actually review the details of requests that are submitted and improve and fix data errors before they become an issue further downstream. Cribble uses our price negotiation agent. They save 15% per request and about 3 hours per request to drive additional cost savings. And then Canva uses our AI invoice processing capabilities to drive an almost 250% increase in efficiency. So it's been actually really interesting to see the evolution and adoption of AI in our product. Everybody comes to us with their own unique use cases. What's amazing is our ability to actually create and configure the agents to meet the specific needs of their organizations over time. So I'm just going to share one kind of customer story that actually isn't all that AI heavy, but actually kind of gives you maybe a blueprint or a guideline for how companies are evolving into this. So let's talk about Dollar Tree. How many of you are familiar with Dollar Tree, right? Hard not to be, right? They have, 9,000 stores across the US and Canada. They have over 150,000 employees. They are a Zip customer, right? they came to us with many of the same challenges. That many of the same challenges that, frankly, I had at Discover, frankly, every single company that I talk to has. They've got a fragmented tech landscape. They've got a lot of different teams and systems that get involved. The process is described as a black box. There's a ton of complexity, right? They were looking at Zip as a true enabler of their strategic transformation, but they needed that foundational layer in order to drive that transformation. So they looked at Zip to solve for a lack of visibility, drive more spend under management, and then solve for a lot of the manual processing that they were able to do. And so through Zip, they were able to engage sourcing earlier, drive better sourcing outcomes, become more of that strategic thought partner because they were able to automate a lot more of the work that was happening, and then able to actually get that proverbial seat at the table so that they could demonstrate that the platform and the function was actually delivering a lot of wins. And those wins were nearly $100 million of cost savings through better negotiations, a 70% reduction in cycle times, and almost $5 billion in spend visibility. So if you talk to the team at Dollar Tree, they'll tell you that this was really the foundational layer for their broader transformation. And the great story now is that they're now rolling out AI agents within the platform and actually expanding into other areas of our product, right? And that's typical of a lot of the customers that we work with. They'll kind of start with a foundational layer of intake and orchestration and start to layer in AI over time. So if you want to learn more, our booth is right there. You can't miss us. Feel free to reach out, stop me if you see me. Really appreciate all your time today, and hope you have a great event. Thanks, everyone.